Good morning, everybody. This is Zach's at it again. I'm your host, Zach Cooley, and I'm very honored to have one of my favorite local actresses and performers on the phone with me from the Whitfield Community College Theater Group, Miss Barbara Brown. Barbara, thank you so much for being here with me today.
Well, thank you for asking.
Well, as I said, I'm very honored to have you on the program because you've been a favorite actress of mine for many, many years, and I'm happy that we can have a chance to talk because there's a great new play happening at the college now. This is April 4th that I'm talking. So this is being recorded, rather. On April 8th and 9th at Whitfield Community College, you are performing along with some other castmates, the Sweet Delilah Swim Club, which I had the privilege of seeing last weekend, and is a great comedy, very lighthearted but heartwarming comedy with some of the terrific veteran performers of the theater group, Miss Frances Moore, another favorite of mine, and Tina Edwards. But you had some new ones, or they were new to me anyway, Courtney Pendleton and Holly Montgomery, two ladies I went to high school with that were on the stage with you. So it looked like you were having a great time up there. Was it as fun as it looked?
Oh, absolutely it was. And with the cast directed by Janice Pryor and Joe Burnett, just unbelievably fun to do. But the ensemble that was put together, just such great talent, which allowed us, I think, to gel quickly, as well as to just have the fun and the closeness that really was there. It just made it that much easier to play off of each other.
So am I correct that Courtney and Holly are new to the group, or have I just missed out on some of what they've done?
Well, my understanding, Holly has done plays with Dr. Pryor before.
Okay.
And Courtney is new, my understanding. This is the first time I've ever worked with both of them.
But they were new to you in working with them.
Yes, sir.
Because obviously you've worked with Tina and Frances many, many times.
Yes.
Now, since we mentioned that, let's go back a little bit. How long have you been in acting or performing?
You really gonna have that's as bad as asking me how old I am, Zach.
Well, I'm not looking for a number necessarily.
Yeah. It's certainly been years.
And have you? Has it always been community theater? Have you done professional acting?
No, not really professional. I have been paid. I guess that's
compensated, right?
Professional, but it's really community.
Right.
Theater, yes.
And you are from Pennsylvania, is that correct?
I am.
So, how did you find your way to Wythe County?
Well, I moved to North Carolina, and then I moved to Virginia for a job opportunity. And I have known Dr. Pryor, Janice Pryor, for many, many years. We worked together when I was finishing up my BA at Ferrum College to go on and get my master's in New York. So when I came to Virginia, I was able to reconnect with Janice. I never really lost touch with her, but that's when I came back. She had told me about the plays that she had been producing. And so I did audition, and my very first play with her was Octet Bridge Club.
Explain a little bit about what that play is.
The Octet Bridge Club?
Yes.
Again, I believe it was 8 women, and they got together as kind of similar to what goes on with Delilah Swim Club, Sweet Delilah Swim Club. They all would get together and play cards, particularly bridge, and just the different nuances that occur between the 8 women, just as the nuances with these women in Sweet Delilah Swim Club who get together every year at the beach, and their goings-on throughout their lives.
And so you've been a part of Janice's group since the beginning, basically, since she has been doing these.
Oh no, she has done shows way before I joined her.
Okay. Yeah. So you don't want to say when you joined the WCC Theater, huh?
Whatever year that was, Octet Bridge Club, I believe, was 2004.
Okay, I was her student at that time.
Oh,
yes.
There you go.
Yes, I have an associate's degree from Westfield Community College, and she was my speech instructor, and then I had her again for film appreciation, which was a very interesting class, and she went on to become a great mentor of mine. So I share in your admiration for Dr. Pryor.
And she's such an awesome actress too.
Yes, she is. And
really
and I did not have an opportunity to see her perform until you all did Nonsense.
Yeah.
And she was just terrific because she played the ditzy nun, whichever one that was. And they have the things where the nuns come out in the audience and interact with you. And I saw that play in Radford with Sally Struthers as Mother Superior.
Oh, you were lucky, weren't you?
And the play that you all did was as good as what I saw in Radford. I mean, it really, really was.
Well, that's kind of you to say. Thank you.
If we talk about another one of your colleagues, Miss Frances Moore, the first play I ever saw at the college was is it Man in the Moon Marigolds?
Yes.
Where it was just because they were doing really small shows because they were getting ready to renovate, and it was just Frances and her 2 daughters. It was not her daughters, but two young women playing her daughters, and she just the way that she can bring emotion to a scene. She is another brilliant lady, and I was very moved by her the very first time I saw her perform.
Yes, she definitely gets into her roles
because she played a character that was equally to be pitied and despised, and you felt you felt both of those emotions very, very strongly in that role, particularly when she was on stage doing most of it by herself. There's not a group of people around her. But anyway, I'm getting off track as usual. But this is a favorite group of mine. I don't think it's any secret that you ladies know that I'm very fond of you and your work. So it's always a pleasure to come and see you perform, especially after the world has been under lock and key for the last 2 years.
Yeah.
I'm really glad, because things that have happened in my life and things that have just happened, period, I can't take a lot of heavy stuff for entertainment. It's just not entertaining to me. It was more detrimental than entertaining. Because I remember the play that they did. I don't believe you were in that one because it was mostly young people. It was about the Anne Frank and that era. And
yeah. Yes.
Yeah, and we had just lost our dog, and there was a scene where Emily Edmonds talked about the guy that strangled the puppy, and Emily and I cried over that for 2 days, and I told Janice, I said, if you've got another tearjerker next in line, I'm not coming back. So I was very happy that this was a lighthearted play, which I think was much needed for more reasons than my own, and I thought that it gelled really, really well. And I'm a big fan of Golden Girls, as everybody is. And when I first saw it, I thought, oh, I hope they're not trying to do a Golden Girls parody, because you can't touch that. You know,
you can't. They're incredible actresses that work.
Yeah. And I mean, that's why it's still relevant. 37 years later, because they were so good. But there are some nuances. I mean, there's definitely some nuances of Blanche Devereaux in Holly Montgomery's character, and I kind of, you were my favorite character, I think, because I kind of connected with your character, because your character saw the other four characters through the eyes of the audience.
Yes, I can. Yes, I see what you're saying.
Yeah. Because like when they're having the scene where the cracks are coming out, and you're just sitting there sipping the cocktail and watching the fur fly. Because Francis's character and Tina's character, and everybody else, they're when they get to the beach or whatever, they're trying to cover up or flower up what's going on. And your character had lived a life like mine, that sort of a Murphy's Law thing, that that you had nothing to hide, and so you came in, and you can elaborate on this any way you want to, and I'll shut up. But you came in and looked at the other characters through the eyes of the audience, and your lines were the lines that I laughed at the most, because I think your character had lived what you might call a more realistic life, at least from where I was sitting.
I agree with you there. It's a very well-written part. Very well-written part. When Dr. Pryor had talked to me about, because anyway, we talked about the show. I won't go into all of that. We talked about the show and the parts that were going to be portrayed, and I looked at all of them online, and she definitely was someone who spoke to me in terms of probably humor. And humor, of course, I think is very honest, and a very good way of bringing out the best and worst in people, but generally for the intention of good.
Good comedy is making light out of the heavy, I think.
Yes, definitely. And her role definitely gave that, I think, to the audience. It's just very well written. So it was a very big privilege of mine to have been able to portray that. And we'll again this coming weekend.
Yeah. And was it difficult for you after being off the stage for 2 years to come back into it, or was it a comfort, or both?
It's definitely one of my therapies. I was very concerned, and I did have that conversation with Janice, as I had taken on extra work and was not sure whether or not I would be able to commit to the time that was going to be needed to do the role and to go to all of the rehearsals and gel as a group. But it worked out very well, and she's always wonderful. Janice is always wonderful, making the schedule as clean as it possibly can for all of the characters. And having a cast this size, I think, makes it a lot easier to be able to accommodate that many people, and did for me, and that worked out really well. But yes, it wasn't difficult, Zach, it was not difficult. The difficulty was whether or not I was going to be able to have the time to do it. I couldn't wait to get back into a play.
I'm sure, because it's so natural for you and the other ladies that I'm sure that it was second nature to be. I'm sure there was a piece of you missing the whole time you weren't doing that.
Yes. Very, very true. And to have come back into this, to not only work with Tina and Frances and Janice and Joe again, but to meet Holly. Now, I've seen Holly in plays when they did one at a church, in particular, that Frances directed. And I really enjoyed her work. I did not know Courtney at all. And when we all came together for a reading, it felt good. But each time we came together for a rehearsal, it just felt really, really good. And then our rehearsal processes, we did get together for some outside rehearsals just to go over lines with each other, and I think that really, really helped. And Holly invited us to do that. Courtney invited us to do that. Frances and Tina, I'm sure, had something to do with that, and it was like, woo, okay, let's do it. And I think that's what helped us gel even more. So it was fun. It was fun. I'd do it again.
Well, and you have another chance. So there was a good crowd when I was there on Friday. Was it still a good crowd on Saturday?
It was a smaller crowd, but a good crowd.
Good, still having good crowds. That's good, because we want the WCC Theater to be supported, because you can still see a live play with a talented group cheaper than the price of a movie. So we want that to be able to continue.
Yeah, definitely.
Let's talk a little bit more about your character in this play. Bernadette has the problem that so many of us face. Either we're touched by it in our families, or we know someone who is, and that your character develops dementia. And I thought that the way that you portrayed that was so sweet and so real, and that was the heaviest part of the play. But you did that so well. But the most touching line in the play, and I say this in the review, is when you say, "Have I had a nice life?" and the other girls say, because they're not about to tell you otherwise, because you hadn't, they say, "Yes, you've had a fabulous life," and you say, "Good. Will you remember that for me?"
Mhm. Mhm.
That was the most hard-hitting line in the play that was delivered, and I thought you did that perfectly, and that is, I imagine, not an easy thing to do.
It was. I lost my mother to dementia, and this was an even
more personal to you than most people.
It was definitely. I did it in her memory.
Sure.
I did do it in her memory. But yes, it makes you kind of gulp down the tears when you go to say the lines like that. And so many people have their families have been touched by dementia, and trying to get people involved to get a cure for that is just, it's just something that is so worthwhile, being involved in the walks and the races and the research for that. But yes, that was a very difficult and heartwarming. I mean, you touch that, yes.
Difficult and important.
Yes, very important.
It was important.
Very important.